Introducing Havoc Mode. Do you want a so-called endgame for Darktide that purports to challenge your skills and strategy, but instead just tests your computer's available RAM and your patience? Havoc Mode. Do you want to prove your skills by climbing a pointless ladder of ranks that are seemingly randomized in difficulty? Havoc Mode. Do you want to expand on Darktide's classic formula with fun enemy modifiers such as enemies have more HP, enemies have more armor, enemies heal each other, more armored enemies, and more enemies that also have more armor? Havoc Mode. Do you want to take 90% of your arsenal and toss it in the trash because it can't compete in this new intense difficulty? Havoc Mode. And do you, viewer, love crashing, and more crashing? Havoc Mode. What a wreck this mode is. I have been formulating my manifesto for a long time. I don't know what it is exactly that made me pull the trigger, but it is so disappointing to see what has become, or rather not become, of Havoc. Havoc is the one alternate game mode that Fatshark has created for Darktide that has any modicum of real success. The fact that there are still a good number of people playing this is a testament that it actually can work, because it has pretty much everything going against it. We have a game mode that, in addition to the regular problems with average Darktide, it is also much harder, which excludes a ton of people. It is way more preclusive to you getting into due to the party finder system that it doesn't need to have, which means even fewer people are going to attempt to do it. And of course, there are tons of people whose systems just cannot handle the amount of on-screen bullshit this mode throws at you. It is like a perfect maelstrom that was designed to keep players from playing it, and yet players do. They bash their heads against this mode day in and day out, and I am one of them at some times. Why is this mode successful? Well, it's because this is the endgame mode. This is the challenging mode to the game. This is the expected location that you will end up at when you have played Darktide for X amount of time. When you have sufficiently skilled up in all the rest of the difficulties, there's literally nothing left to do in the game except for get good and challenge yourself further and further and further. And that's what Havoc is there to do. And on its face, it's okay at that. But the fact that this is the end game for Darktide, and that is receiving as little attention as it does, is just an absolute shame, because this is where your committed players are going to end up, right? The players who play for hundreds or thousands of hours will be playing Havoc mode, and yet we have flawed philosophy behind the ranking system, behind what makes the game difficult, behind how we should be challenging players or encouraging players to play within their ranks, behind how we should assemble groups. Everything about it makes almost zero sense when viewed from a lens of coming up with a game mode like this organically. But there's something that I'm going to point out right here at the beginning, and I have to because I'm going to be returning to it a number of times throughout this manifesto here today, and that is that Havoc as a game mode is stolen. This game mode and almost all of its little weird-ass systems are almost one-for-one lifted from World of Warcraft's Mythic Dungeons, the Mythic Plus system. And if you are or have been a Mythic Plus player, as soon as you look at Havoc from that lens, you can't unsee it. That all of the systems that make absolutely zero sense in Havoc, why is this something that's forced upon players, given that this is the game Darktide and such and such is true of Darktide? Well, it makes no sense in Darktide, but there's a reason for it in Mythic Plus. And so that is the thing I'm going to start with here today. I'm going to point out where we have just straight up copied Mythic Plus's World of Warcraft ass homework and how it has fucked this system. So let's just start by going down the list. Number 1, map rotation. For some reason, in Havoc mode, the decision was made that only 10 of the game's 20 total maps are going to be available at any given time. These sets of 10 maps will stay in the rotation for 3 weeks, and after that 3 weeks, about 3 or 4 of those maps will be rotated out, with 3 or 4 replacing them. This means, since it's not rotating more than 3 or 4 at a time, you could be waiting upwards of a month and a half if there's a particular map that you like playing and want to play on. You could also be stuck with a map that you really, really hate for a month and a half or even longer if it's particularly unlucky. Now, why is there rotation? If you have half of the maps in circulation, maybe they're rotating these out so they can perform maintenance on them or fix bugs or errors that they were seeing players exploiting. But we know that's not the case. They are not rotating maps out that need desperate repairs and then putting them back in when they're good and ready. They are just rotating them out because that's the system. Because that's the system that they stole from World of Warcraft, where this system makes complete sense. In World of Warcraft, the available dungeons change on rotation, and those dungeons offer specific tailored loot. So there might be a set of shoulders with a very specific stat combination that you need from one particular map. And that means that during that rotation, you're going to have to try very hard to make certain that you get that particular map on farm. It gives players more reason to engage with the game constantly, because that's the goal of an MMO, is to keep players engaged, keep them watching the rotation so they don't miss anything. So the weekly rotations with Havoc make no sense, but with World of Warcraft, it makes complete sense because you are trying to keep players coming back week after week and checking to see if there's not another map that they have a piece of gear they desperately need to drop from. Number 2, mutator rotation. In Havoc, the same rotation that affects the maps that are available also affects the current mutator pool, and there are 4 mutators active at any time out of a pool of 10. Those 10 mutators have 2 that are rotated out and 2 that are rotated in every 3 weeks. So after a 6-week period, you will have removed the entire previous pool and added in a new set of 4, and every map will have 2 of these applied to them at random. They are not tiered as they are in World of Warcraft, so any given map can have either any of the 4 applied to it, 2 different ones. And that means that if there's a particular mutator that you hate or really like, you have a 50-50 shot of having it on any game, and it's going to be that way for at least 3 weeks, and there is a chance of it being there for up to 6 weeks. So for instance, the green goop on the floor that was there the previous 3 weeks, last week the set rotated, but that one was left in, meaning that one will be there for another 3 full weeks, and then hopefully, finally, it'll be rotated out then. And at which time they'll bring in 2 more. Now, why does Havoc do this? There's only 10 or maybe even 9 mutators available. Why do they force us to play with the same set of mutators over and over and over again on a smaller pool of maps? Because it gets very stale. It gets very annoying to have to play with green goop on every single map over and over and over. Well, yet again, we can just look at Mythic. We just have to look at what World of Warcraft is doing and copy their homework. Because the reason this is done in World of Warcraft is, again, to keep the challenge a little bit fresh in these maps. However, World of Warcraft has long ago realized that these mutators, these affixes as they call them, are not balanced. They are inherently not balanced, and they used to have a much larger variety of them that could roll from to put on maps, and certain ones were very, very difficult for lots of classes and would completely screw them, especially melee characters, and that was really unfortunate. So they have reduced this massively. There's only 4 the game selects from now in Mythic Dungeons, and that rotates every week. So you will only have 4, and one of them there's a primary one, though, that it chooses from 1 of 4, and it rotates linearly every single week. So if it is a bad week, if it's a mutator that you can't do, you miss 1 week of having your peak performance. The next week, it'll rotate out. So again, we have another rotation system here that makes sense for World of Warcraft because it is a system that encourages players to come back week after week after week. It makes no sense for Havoc, where it's a system that's just supposed to give players an enjoyable new way to approach Darktide. Number 3, no quick play and an enforcement of utilizing the party finder system. In Havoc, you have probably noticed that there is no quick play for Havoc. Why? There very easily could be a quick play in Havoc, right? It would be so simple and so obvious to add a quick play button, and then players could quick play on their difficulty or within a bracket of difficulties. They could jump into the game, they could play that game with the team. If the team loses, they could stick with the team and choose to reformulate, or they could find another game and try it out. Darktide is simply not designed as a game that requires you to bring specific classes for specific counters. It does not require 1 healer, 1 tank, and 2 DPS. It just requires 4 players that are playing well. And because the class distribution of what players play is generally pretty even, you're not going to run into very many situations where the team is assigned all 4 psychers or all 4 veterans. And if you do, if you have a really bad game going, or if you're entering into ranks where you really want to try and you want to curate your team specifically to counter whatever map you have, well, then you can still use the party finder system. You could still add the people in your group to your friends list, invite them, all that is still available. But enforcing the fact that we cannot use quick play, especially at some of these lower ranks where the game might as well be Auric. The first 20 missions of the game are easier than you'll experience on Auric Damnation. Why is quick play not available? It makes no sense. Of course, it makes sense though if you realize they're just copying World of Warcraft, where the enforcement of choosing certain classes and a certain combination of certain classes is the rule. You must have at least 1 tank, you must have 1 healer, you must have 3 DPS, and there are certain utilities that certain classes bring, and if you are not making certain that those are present on your team composition somewhere, you are going to fail your run, or you're going to have a bad time on your run. World of Warcraft and Mythic Dungeons are inherently much more competitive than Havoc, because this is people's actual grind. This is the goal. You get a certain number of attempts and that's it. And so your attempts really matter, especially if you're trying to push your keys and increase the gear that you're going to get out of it. People take it very seriously. So curating and making certain that you have a battle res, making certain that you have a bloodlust effect somewhere on your team, that is absolutely of top importance. And that is why you can check players' builds. You can check what players are using within the party finder system in World of Warcraft. But you can't in Havoc, which makes the party finder system not only completely out of place and not needed in Havoc, but for almost all players. If you are not using mods, it is almost entirely useless for you. The only thing it allows you to see about the players that are coming into your game is what their Havoc rank is, what their character choice is, what their name is, and what their title and border are. So you can just kind of screen and say, this player has True Survivor, and they have Havoc 40, and they're an Ogren, okay, they can join my team. But you can't see their build, you can't see anything else about them. So what is the point of the Party Finder system? Well, there really is no point. It's just another thing that's stolen from Mythic Plus. Number 4, a single weekly reward chest. When you complete games of Havoc, there are no after-game resource rewards, excepting the small amount you'll get from breaking the totems in levels. There are no in-game diamantine pickups, there are no in-game plasteel pickups, and you will still get a weapon reward, but most players that are looking for those rewards are after the crafting resources at all. Now, instead of that, at the end of the week, when the reset happens on Sundays, you get a weekly reward chest that rewards you proportional to the single highest Havoc rank that you cleared throughout the week, which means if you cleared a Havoc 40, you're going to get a cool 3,800 plast or 38,000 plasteel and 15,000 diamantine. A lot of fucking resources. However, for most players, that is just completely pointless. Most players that at that level that have many hours of investment don't really care about these resources at all. And it begs the question, why are we incentivizing players with a weekly reward chest in the stead of giving them rewards per mission? Wouldn't you want players just to play more missions and get their resources that way? Be more engaged with the game constantly, rather than just playing 1 mission a week and saying, I'm calling it quits there, I got my weekly reset, let's go. Yeah, you probably would. Unless, of course, you were just copying World of Warcraft again, because World of Warcraft has a weekly chest system. Now, granted, World of Warcraft still rewards you for completing each mission that you do throughout the week. There are a certain number of rewards you can draw from the dungeons you complete throughout the week, but these are overall pretty small in comparison to your weekly chest. Your weekly chest is the big thing, and it encourages you to continue playing throughout the week, farming the dungeons that you want to get the drops from, and then at the end of the week, it tallies up all of your efforts and gives you a reward proportional to that. So it calculates all of the highest dungeons you completed and sees how many you did, and then it rewards you very well usually. So it gives you a lot to pull from, and you can choose a couple items out of that. And that is very rewarding. It's a great retention mechanic that keeps players coming back, because chances are you log in on Tuesday to see what your sick loot is, and then you're ready to start your grind, baby. You're already logged in. Might as well start your grind for today. And that sort of retention mechanic, it gets in your brain. It's something, this weekly reward reset thing is something that World of Warcraft really benefits from, and therefore it's part of World of Warcraft. But Darktide doesn't benefit from it. So why is it in Darktide? And number 5, this one really takes the cake. It blows my mind. I'm impressed, honestly. They managed to make a decision with Havoc that is worse than making it party finder only. That's right, the ranking system. Why the fuck does Havoc have a ranking system? Why is this a thing at all, in any way, shape, or form? What is the purpose of this, if not to just torture everybody? It is just the stupidest possible, most frustrating part of this entire ordeal, and I cannot believe we are unlearning so many things that we learned in Vermintide 2, Fat Shark. You literally launched a game with a high difficulty called Legend, and you realized that a ton of fucking players that weren't ready to play on that difficulty were playing it because it gave the best possible loot, and so they were fucking just ruining games because they were grubbing for fucking Emperor's Vault chests. And so when you released Cataclysm difficulty, the uber hard difficulty, you actually had the fucking brain cells to say, hey, should we give a better reward for completing a higher difficulty? No, because Cataclysm is so bust your balls fucking hard that there should be only 2 responses. There's only one reason why you would go in there, and it's to have your cock smashed flat as a pancake. And when you do that, you're going to either have the response, ouchie, me no likey, I'm going back to champion difficulty, or you're going to say, fuck yeah, do it again, and you're going to continue playing Cataclysm from that point on. That should have been what Havoc is. Why do I go to the fucking Havoc station in this stupid goddamn ranking system? Why don't I just go to the menu with all the other missions, and then there's just 2 extra difficulties? There's a Havoc 20 and there's a Havoc 40 difficulty, and I can just pick that shit and play it if I fucking want to. Because otherwise, what do I have? I have all these players, all these people who are in my Discord, me even half the time, where after a reset, I'm at like Havoc 37. I just want to be Havoc 40, right? And I keep getting dog shit missions and having teams that don't know what they're doing, who are trying to grind to Havoc 40. And the whole reason I and others want to get to Havoc 40, say it with me, folks. Say it with me, Havoc 40 havers. What is the number 1 reason why you want to be Havoc 40? It's just so you can play the fucking game and not deal with that dog shit system. Your ultimate reward for completing Havoc 40 is that you don't have to give a shit about what your rank is. I can play a Havoc 26, I can play a Havoc 10, I can play a Havoc 1, I can literally just like jack off and go AFK in the middle of the mission and die, just grief the entire mission, and it doesn't fucking matter because it's just a game. I'm just there to play. I just want to play on the hard difficulty, right? I want to test myself at that difficulty. Why do I have to do this stupid fucking ranking thing? At the same time, you are psychologically torturing less skilled players because the game is dictating to them the only way that you can be good is by getting to Havoc 40. So it's forcing these players to engage with the system that they should not. They are not having a good time. They are just doing it because, oh, I need to get a higher ranks, I need to get penances. The game is psychologically manipulating them into doing that. If it was just a fucking difficulty, there's tons of players out there that know, oh yeah, you know, I stick to Damnation because Orcus is too intense. But when you get into Havoc, it fucking breaks their brain because it's manipulative. It tells them that they must rank up. There's a rank up and rank down. You just want to stay at the difficulty you want to fucking play at, right? So just give players a difficulty they can choose and fucking stay there, rather than having this fucking up and down goddamn roller coaster that's so fucking uneven too. Like I can't wait to, you know, have the reset happen again, and then I can be playing Havoc 33 games that are harder than any Havoc 40 I've ever played in my life, and then when I get to Havoc 40, it just rolls over and shows me its fucking belly like it's a Havoc 25 because the AI director shits its pants. It's like, why is there a ranking system if we can't even have the rankings be a like smooth smooth, linear difficulty increase. It's like we forgot that element. So anyway, I don't know why I'm asking why is there a ranking system? Again, remembering what portion of the video we're in, it's because Mythic Plus has this fucking system. Because in World of Warcraft, in Mythic Plus, completing a higher rank Mythic Dungeon gives you higher rank gear. You get a higher power level for completing higher levels. And completing the higher levels, completing them consistently and ahead of the timer, because it's a timed competitive system, gives you a greater increase to your key, which makes you go up faster. And you max out at Mythic 25, and that's where you'll get the best possible gear. It's on tier or above with what the raid gear is, and that's why players are doing it in their off time between raiding. So what the fuck? Like, obviously they need it over there. We do not need it. Completely nuke the fucking ranking system from orbit. Take everyone who ever got True Survivor and shit, make that a feat of strength or whatever you want to call it, right? Make that a grandfathered in title that you can't get anymore. Oh well, boo-hoo, who gives a fuck? Or just take it out of the game. I don't care at this point. Just take out the stupid ranking system so players can actually just play this and make it quick play so players will play it, because no one wants to deal with this dog shit. No one wants to like have the anxiety and the stress. And it's just like you banned scoreboard from being in your game because it's quote unquote too toxic. And then you introduce a system that is like designing a fucking evil scientist laboratory to make people toxic to each other. What the fuck? What is wrong with you? So that's just like an appetizer. That's just what I wanted to go on to kind of describe where I think a lot of the issues with Havoc are coming from. It's just because we're copying off of a system that is not intended for our game. Because we're copying mechanics and systems that were intended for World of Warcraft, Mythic Dungeons, a competitive RPG MMO experience, not for Darktide, and we're trying to make them work here. And that has made this mode like way stupider and way more frustrating than it needs to be. And it ultimately will never be a fit, because this game, even though players take it super seriously and are competitive and stuff about it, it cannot be viewed from a competitive lens because it's so fundamentally unfair. Like, it's so unfair and uneven. That's probably the thing I'll start with here. I'm going to start, this is going to be the ultimate list of gripes. I'll just put it on the side of the screen and you can see it formulate over time. Let's start with the number one gripe I have right now. Completely uneven experiences between games. This game is like bipolar, I swear to God. I'll have games where I'm on a Havoc 31 and it is trying its absolute damnedest to kill every person on the team, where it's just pulling out stop after stop after stop, and every possible like choke point in every difficult location in the map, it's doing everything within its power to screw over the team, and in every wombo combo, non-stop harassment by specials, etc, etc. And then I'll play a Havoc 40 and it's like the game director just falls asleep. I literally have at least 2 Havoc 40s recorded this week where the entire team altogether had less than 4 million damage on an almost 40-minute game. That is incredible. Like, that means almost nothing spawned, and we killed everything that spawned, right? We made our way through the map. But like, there's other games I'll play that are like 40-45 minutes, and just the Flamestaff Psyker will have 3.5 million damage. It's incredible how completely bipolar the difficulty can be. And that means that ultimately, what is the ranking system like even indicative of? Because like, Havoc 40 and your True Survivor mission, like even like penances like True Survivor, like, oh man, this guy's True Survivor, must be really good. Or he just played on one of those missions where the game just didn't fucking do anything, and it was just a complete walk in the park. I'm falling asleep during the mission. I have no idea what it does, why it does this, but like, I would think that if we're treating this as a pseudo-competitive game mode where players are supposed to be challenging themselves, we would probably try to address some of those issues. And one perhaps even bigger issue is that there are massive like obviously telegraphed difficulty spikes that are occurring at certain locations in certain missions. And I can name a couple of these like just offhand. The first room in TRS 150, where you go through this narrow hallway down some stairs and turn a right-hand corner. That room, the first room on Dark Communion after you do the drop down, after you explode the wall on HL7004. By the way, first of all, the map names in this game suck ass. Let me also mention that. That's not germane to the Havoc discussion, but they are so terrible. Thank God Dark Communion actually has a name. But like, yeah, the Coliseum Carnival mission, HL7004, that one after you detonate the wall with the charge, all these missions, they can spawn like a half dozen bosses within a span of 5 minutes. And
the densest horde you've ever seen, and they'll force you back to the very first room in the map. I can't even count the number of times on TRS 150 you go down this little elevator at the start of the map, and then you pop open the door. You probably remember which one I'm thinking about right now. You pop open the door pressing the button, and you start the map right there. But you will get so butt fucked in the first room of that map that it pushes you back and your team will die in the elevator. I'd say there's probably something wrong if a team that's casually clearing Havoc 40s, or is even able to duo a Havoc 40 with two of the people on this team, is getting killed so hard, that is getting overwhelmed so hard, they're being pushed back into the first room on the map where they're unable to escape, and they're getting crushed by quantity of spawns, right? That stuff is happening, and I've got like clips, I'll maybe even put it right in here, of the detonation on the wall in HL 7004 spawning 4 100,000 HP full bosses. That is legitimately not allowed by the game. Like, it's completely broken. And the fact that this hasn't been addressed, this has been going on for a while, is crazy. Because like this is supposed to be, this takes a lot of fucking time. It takes a lot of time to lose games, right? When you get completely butt fucked and sent back to the main menu and have to try it again, that's 5 minutes at least to reset between a loss. Between the time that every member of your team is down and the time you start the next mission is probably about 5 minutes, plus the 40-ish minutes, you know, God forbid all the time you spent playing the game, which at least that's fun, but all these goddamn loading screens, losing is bad enough. Killing players after they just spent 5 minutes loading, killing them immediately in the first room with this crazy difficult spike, it's crazy. That's why I'll just rage quit for the day when that shit starts happening. So there's that. This also, like I said before, makes the ranking system completely meaningless. The ranking system that's supposed to indicate, oh, like tier difficulty, oh, Havoc 40 is harder than Havoc 39. Yeah, fucking right. Like, we all know that like anything from 31 to 40 can be any old fucking difficulty. It's literally dependent on the whims of mystical calculations that dictate the system. It can be legitimately any difficulty in there, and so there's no meaning to being a quote-unquote Havoc 40 player. Oh, I completed a Havoc 40 one time. Like, what you want to do in your expert player and you're trying to develop your skills is get consistency in your games. And that's the other frustrating thing, is if you're actually trying to get better and improve, you can't tell when you're improving when the game is going like, but you can't see me, I'm gesturing up and down like vigorously with my hand, like a fucking roller coaster, up and down like this, like, oh my god, like it's just whiplashing me back and forth. I have no idea, am I the fucking goat of all time, or was that game just like fucking balls easy crazy? It's just super frustrating to try and get a grasp on what the hell is going on with this thing. Okay, so that's out of the way. Let's go on to the rotation stuff, as I addressed in the thing. Why do we have rotations? Probably just because we're aping off of Mythic, but the rotations are so stupid and frustrating because you'll be stuck with the same set of half of the maps over and over and over and over and over and over and over for 3 weeks. That's a long fucking time. And probably the worst one is the mutators. Some of these mutators are so fucking bad. They are so obnoxious. The green goop on the ground, it's basically a free mutator. It doesn't really do anything, but it forces somebody on your team to play as a corruption removal zealot or play as a hive scum with a stim supply and everybody has to step in it, or else. Or it's just the most interminable, you're standing there waiting for 15 seconds while this shit gets off the floor. Like, who decided that's a fun mechanic for Havoc, is just stand there and wait and stand in a box while this shit's on the ground, and it's just fucking everywhere. And of course it's also like just wrecks your frames. It's just disgusting, like terrorizes your frames. God bless you if you have like DLSS or FrameGen, it eats you alive. And it's just, why is it just like such an obnoxious, it's like, it's designed in an evil lab to be obnoxious, more or less. And that stuff will be stuck in your games the green goop will be stuck in there for 6 full weeks by the time it rotates out. I'm ready to move past it. I've also been ready to see the rework, quote unquote, to Rotten Armor since they announced it. It literally hasn't been back in rotation since they announced the fix when Skitarii came out, right? It was like, huh? We announced we're fixing this. Actually, wait, it wasn't even before that, and it hasn't been back in since, because no one is manually looking at the system, which begs the question, if no one is doing this manually, if it's not someone sitting down at the keyboard and deciding like, oh, these things will be in the rotation this week, why is it every 3 weeks? It's literally taking no fucking work. Just make it every week. who would care, right? Like, every week it rotates, great. So now if there's a really frustrating modifier, at worst, I'm waiting 2 weeks for it to rotate as opposed to 6. And what is like some super casual player that only plays once a month gonna log in and go, oh, dang it, did I miss the weekly rotation with the orange enemies, my favorite mutator? I'm never playing again. I'm never buying something from the shop again. Like, no. So just make it rotate every week. It's literally just go into the drop down menu. Like on your thing that rolls the Havoc mutators, the program that does it, and change that to say 7 days as opposed to 21 days. There, I fixed it for you, right? That would be infinitely better than this stupid 3-week rotation that no one knows when it's going to happen either. What the fuck? It's so frustrating, and it's so boring too, because there's already only 20 maps in the game. You're already just like, fucking torturing us by making us play the same maps. For the last 2 years, you haven't made a fucking map. Now I gotta play half of that many for 3 weeks at a time. God, it just sucks. It makes it even worse than it has to be. Let's talk about Party Finder while we're on it. Party Finder is just like so bonkers that they should have seen as soon as they released Party Finder. Party Finder came out with the patch prior to Havoc, right? It came out with the unlocked and loaded update. And when it released, players were like, what the fuck is the purpose of this? We can already party up. There's an in-game social menu if you find people you want to party up with. You can already press E or whatever it is at the end of the game to stay with the party if you like the people you're in quick play with. But 99% of people, you've been culturing us all to play quick play, so we just want to quick play. So you introduce this Party Finder, and you should have seen immediately 0 people were using it, literally 0. You would open that thing up at peak hours in North America East and look who's in the Party Finder. Fucking nobody. There was no one using it, which should have told you how popular that mechanic is going to be. And then you force it upon players when they're in the thing. And who is it benefiting, right? You, as I said earlier, you can't see any details about players. All you can see is their name, their stupid title, their frame, and what character they're playing as. And that's it. They could have the worst fucking build you've ever seen. They could have 0 build. They could have 0 gear. You can see their rank, right? Their Havoc rank, but that can literally be meaningless if they've been boosted in one game, especially on release, where like literally completing one Havoc 40 would immediately boost you to Havoc 40. So you could be a 100% boosted scrub and just be masquerading, and players would have no way of knowing, except players who are using mods. And so what you're doing by making it a Party Finder only thing is you are enabling toxicity, because the most toxic thing I have ever seen in fucking Darktide is being I don't want to be the guy who calls out mod users, but it is being done through the Party Finder system in Havoc. There are mods that can detect what loadouts players are using. They can scan their loadouts automatically and deny them instantly. If you are using a Flame Staff Bubble Psyker, it will automatically deny you. If you ever clicked on someone's game and you press your request to join and it immediately denies you, you've been screened by a mod that is automatically denying you because you don't fit the parameters that player wants to play with. That is toxic as fuck, right? That level of screening is incredibly fucking toxic. And that should not be allowed in the game, right? That is completely, that is beyond fucked, that is allowed to be going. And the reason that's going on, right, is because the Party Finder system is the only way players can get into games. And so what do you think? Are players really excited to play this game if over and over and over again they're getting denied because they have some inefficiency in their build that super elitist players can see? Are they going to want to play if they're playing in a region that doesn't have as many players and they can barely find anyone to match with them? Fuck no. They're going to go do literally anything else. They're going to go do Auric. They're not going to do expeditions, but they'll do Auric or whatever else. They just won't play this mode because it's not worth it. It literally isn't worth it. Just why are there so many barriers to entry? There's already barriers to entry as far as completing maelstroms and stuff to get in here, but now you're just making players run through the gauntlet, and it's kind of just like you're pre-flattening their balls. They want to sign up to have the game flatten their balls, not be run through the ringer of filing the correct fucking paperwork to play the game ahead of time. It sucks. Get rid of this shit. Okay. In addition to the Party Finder thing, right? So the Party Finder thing, it also incentivizes and enables the meta, which is the other thing that I'm going to be bitching about here in a second at length, which is that everything that this mode does, it plays into the hands of the builds and the shit that's already good in the game, right? It's like we have, again, designed this strategically just to bias it so that the stuff that was already good in normal games, the stuff that people were already considering was overplayed with and just is so strong, it just continues to be even better. So welcome, AoE, flame staff, explosions, just, all this shit, damage over time, and all the modifiers, as we'll talk about in a second with the mutators, all of them seem to just completely treat that sort of shit with kids' gloves. It's like, if you choose a character that doesn't have that stuff, you get to play hard mode. How fun for Zealot. How fun for Arbites. But meanwhile, you play fucking Veteran, Hive Scum, Ogren with Power Maul and Rumbler, right? Like all of Skitari, Psyker. Those guys just get to play with all the fun fucking toys in the world because they get all this fucking explosions and damage over time and crazy fucking bot. Like they have all these cool stuff and the game lets them have fun. But then other characters in classes just get shit on because they don't have the stuff that stands up to the test. And then you try to join games. Say you're a player who spent X amount of hours leveling your fucking Zealot, and all you've ever done is charge Zealot, right? You've got, what if you're me, hypothetically, you're me from a couple of years ago, where the literal only character I'd ever played was Zealot, and the first couple hundred hours I played, it was only that character. That's the only character I've got leveled up. I want to play Havoc. I'm gonna get declined from every single fucking game because I don't have a chorus build, because that's what's expected of players, because players can peep my fucking build to the party finder using mods, and like, charge Zealot just isn't going to contribute in the way that you need to because Havoc is so stupid in its design. Why? Like, why have you made this system so toxic and so difficult in the way that's going to bias it towards using the shit that was already good? It's endlessly frustrating that the meta is even worse here. That there's a meta at all, really, when this stuff has been a problem for so long, but it's so religiously enforced here, and it's being given all the tools it needs to be enforced even harder. Because at least if it was quick play, a player will show up and they'll suck because they don't have a meta build. Oh well, right? You don't have any control of that, but you do when every single person that plays the game has to go under your watchful gaze and be scrutinized by your, build profiling mods. It's fucked. Okay, now let's talk about mutators. The mutators really piss me off in this game mode because they are the most uninspired thing I could possibly imagine. I could, and I will, at the end of this video when I feel like in a more constructive mood. Right now I'm on the tear it down, burn it all sort of phase, but I'll turn it back around and I'll put some, turn that frown upside down and I'll give it some constructive criticism. It's like an open-faced shit sandwich. I'm still in the shit part of the sandwich. We'll have the bread at the bottom if I'm feeling like it. So yeah, mutators are you could have ChatGPT come up with better mutators than this. It seems like in creating mutators, there's really two rules for how these should be designed. They either need to make enemies harder to kill, either by making them have more health, more armor, more damage resistance. They should also be stagger immune, because fuck you if you're trying to stagger anything, if you're trying to play melee. Oh, and the second rule is it should make it harder to play melee. For whatever reason, just all the modifiers just seem to really fuck you if you're a melee character. So yeah, you know how the only thing you really got as a melee character is the ability to run up on gunners and stagger them and stop them from shooting you? Well, welcome to Cranial Corruption. Red. I believe it's the red stim now. The pink enemies. All four of those types of enemies are stagger and crowd control immune. So what's going to happen with the Reapers now? Now if the game spawns in with a bunch of Reapers, your melee build just got 500% harder and you're going to get fucking destroyed the entire game long. It's going to be literally zero fun. Meanwhile, what do I get to do as a recon, lasgun, and furnace veteran, or like a hive scum with tox pistol, or a flame staff psyker, or a rumbler ogre, right? I'd not even give a fuck, right? Because that stuff literally doesn't matter to me as a range spam character. So we take one of the most enjoyable elements of Darktide and we make it 700% as hard, and then we just encourage players to play with slop, just vomiting range attacks down range. And you already knew that was going to be a problem because you nerfed ammo supply so fucking crazy in this mode. You only get 40% of the ammo, but we have literally unlimited ammo on half of the classes, and we have range spam that even extends outside of ammo, literally like flame staff and the fucking new spheric and shit. That stuff is stupid, and it does more work than melee can by times 10 because it's AoE too. So like, why are we penalizing players for trying to play in a way that you actually engage with enemies? Because we don't have any other ideas for how to design this mode. It's just make it have more enemies and make them stagger immune. Sometimes they're just broken and we'll just automatically lose you the game. So, you know, a la our everyone's favorite ritual, demon host rituals that have been broken for 18 months and no one has bothered to go through and fix these things. Like, it's incredible that like this game mode, it has no regard for like competitive balance or whatever. It's a farce that we would think it would, because you have bugs that literal game-breaking bugs that will force you to lose a match. It will summon in a full health demon host that will kill every player of your team and a horde, because the players, as you saw on screen at the beginning, the players literally cannot kill all the ritualists because they just aren't on the map. How many hours of work would it require to fix this? A bug that has been around for literal years, that there's only 20 fucking maps in the game, right? There's only so many fixed ritualist spawns. Take one intern and one dev and literally an afternoon, have them fly through the map with the dev tools and write down the locations where these are, pop it open in the dev whatever. I'm certain you have a thing where it shows where the ritualists have to stand, and manually move them, save, you know, overwrite, yes, done, right? That would literally take almost no time. And it goes out of rotation for months at a time, and players always expect it'll be fixed when it comes back, and it seems like it's always broken in some new way. Like, is no one, you have playtesters, which is ridiculous, right? You have all these playtesters. Like, Reginald's a playtester, there's all these playtesters, and I feel like the only thing they do is, like, they get called in to play with the new class some ahead of the launch, but, like, I know that they have time, right? They would do this. They love this game. They're not playtesters because it makes them rich and famous. They're playtesters because they want to fix the game. Use them to fix these bugs. It's ridiculous that this is supposed to be a mode that players are going to take seriously and get competitive about and trying to test their skills, and it can literally just be broken in a way that steals a win from you 34 minutes into a run. How fun is that? Use your fucking playtesters. All right, so I said they need to use their playtesters, but they've also got the community, right? I'm a member of the community. I guess I could be a playtester or whatever. Here, I'll suffice, right? I'm gonna help them out. I'm feeling charitable. I've done my venting. Here is what I would do if I could just effect some changes to Havoc to get this thing up to snuff, even disregarding all the stuff about weapon balance and things like that. Let's just talk about some big picture stuff for Havoc. First, starting with the modifiers, or rather the mutators. Green goop. Replace this green goop. Get the green goop out of here. We're going to replace that with detonating Nurgle pustules. This is going to be the exact same thing as the exploding skulls from Chaos Waste in Vermintide 2, except for if they hit you, it doesn't like kill you, it just corrupts a portion of your health bar. Basically like a detonating mine, like rodent Karnak drops when the twins spawn in, right? But it's very telegraphed. It one enemy falls down, starts to glow green, and then it expands, and then you have like 3 seconds or whatever to get out of the radius, and then you're good. That's how that, and it should be a relatively small radius, about the size of the current green goop, so you're not like, you know, right up on enemies. That way it's an instant punishment. You're not waiting around. Yeah, you'll take some corruption damage, but you're not waiting 15 seconds for this to happen. Orange, the rampaging enemies, damage reduction enemies, this is gone. That's removed. We are also going to remove cranial corruption. This serves no purpose other than to cuck stagger-based builds. It just biases the game towards range spam. We are going to remove the stagger immunity from pink enemies. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but pink enemies are already strong enough. This is already one of the most overtuned modifiers, so we're going to remove that from those pink enemies so that they are weak like they should be, because they are healers, instead of making them ultra imba. Red enemies, who right now, when they reach 50% of their HP, they enrage, making them stagger immune and making them deal more damage and attack faster. That is no longer the case, because what that does is it prioritizes players to dot these characters up or to instantly kill them. Just basically says, hey, do more damage, right? It also makes them crowd control immune, which you know how I feel about that. It removes that whole element from the game. What we are going to do instead is those enemies do not gain additional damage or crowd control immunity, but instead they become undying for 3 seconds upon reaching death. This means that you will need crowd controllers on your team. You will need someone who, to frontline or good melee skills. If it's melee enemies rushing at you, you will need to kill them and then defend yourself or stagger them and stop them from attacking you for the next 3 seconds and make some space, rather than just, more damage being the solution to every fucking thing in the world. Then we've got the ritual positions. Just go through the map and fix all those, right? I can't imagine how hard that would be. Just go through and fix them. GG. The triggers, make the triggers consistent so they're not triggering from across the fucking world, and makes it certain that all of the ritualists are accessible and then they're not spawning off the edge of the map a la the start of Hab Draco and stuff. Remove Pox gas as an environmental modifier. There are occasionally on multiples of 5 in the ranking system, for whatever reason, it's guaranteed you will get a additional environmental modifier. This can be extra dogs, power supply interruption, aka blackout. It can be Inferno. It can be the fog with the snipers, but it can also be Pox gas and Pox gas with Tox bombers. Pox gas is like a 3x modifier to how difficult a mission is. I have no idea how it got lumped in with the other environmental modifiers like, oh, there's some fog and a couple extra snipers. It ruins your games. It is basically for most players that are challenging themselves to climb in Havoc and insta-lose. It just completely makes the game way too hard, and I have no idea what's in here. It's also super not fun. So it just definitely does not need to be in Havoc with how uneven Havoc already is, and especially not at a 5% chance on Havoc 40s. So that's got to go. Also, remove Pus Hardened, if that still exists. I don't know if it's still in the game. I haven't seen it in a while, but Pus Hardened is another damage reduction to ranged shit. It's kind of boring and sucks. So remove that if it still exists. And then we're going to add 3 new modifiers. The first modifier is called Ticking Tox Bomb. This is a timed mission. You start with a certain amount of time on the timer. When you kill bosses, when you kill enemies, elite enemies, and when you complete mission objectives, it adds time in to the system. If you are dragging and you run out of time, the environment fills with tox gas, you start to take toxin damage over time, right? Something similar to what we have at Expeditions, but when you kill more enemies, it refills the timer. You don't instantly lose, it doesn't fill it with Pox gas permanently. If you can start to kill more enemies again, if you get a big horde wave and a couple of boss kills, it'll buy you some more time and you can make your way through the level. So it's a incentive to push all the time, which is going to make the game harder and I think fun. Another new modifier, new mutator, radio reinforcement. We have these radio gunners. I have no idea why those were removed from the game after one event. There's a model for them and everything. Have those be mixed in with every elite pack, every elite engagement. Make them spawn in the background. Program them so they stand around like bombers and call in reinforcements in the back line, right? So now your engagements have to be structured around there's another new type of enemy out here who's going to be constantly calling in snipers and reinforcements. If we don't find a way to shut them down and deal with them, it's going to mean you need to be able to break sieges. Another interesting thing. Another new mutator, psionic disruption. When a horde wave starts, a psionic wave goes out, it jams your ability. You can use it one time, and then your ability does not cool down for the rest of that combat. So you have a horde wave go out, and it's like, a minute or so, it completely jams your ability. So you are just like completely cucked out of spamming abilities like that, which would, be definitely really strong against certain ability spam that is really, really fucking OP and imba in this game. So I think that would be very interesting to see what players do, how players would strategize around these, and think about what we've done here, right? Think about overall, we have removed modifiers that make you just wait around and be bored, like orange, and like the green gooping on the ground, where you're just waiting because these enemies have so much fucking health, and hordes are just forever long. We've removed all sorts of stagger immunity, because stagger is a principle that the melee classes are supposed to get, and melee is already hurt enough by a lot of stuff in Havoc, so give them their fucking stagger back. We've also fixed a lot of bugs here. We removed some potential difficulty, like overwhelming difficulty spikes like tox gas. And then think about the different modifiers that I suggested we add in here. We have 3 modifiers that change the tempo of the game, change the fundamentals of the way the game is played. Not just makes the enemies have more HP, not just makes there be more enemies, right? It changes how enemies, how you relate to the game's sort of like give and take. You're going to have to push a lot harder and take a lot more risks to keep up with the timer and push forward and try to pull bosses out if you have ticking tox bomb as your modifier. If you have radio reinforcement, you're going to have somebody who can dive for back lines and try to get these radio gunners out. You can't just sit there and siege and range down an entire room. They'll keep spawning forever if you try to do that. If there's sonic disruption, you can't be relying on characters whose sort of core notion is to repeatedly spam their abilities in combat, a la Bubble Psyker, a la Shout, right? You want abilities that are impactful when they're used one time, and you're going to need to have core good fundamentals outside of that, because you're going to get jammed for a full minute. Also, in addition to that, let's talk about some more meta big picture stuff with Havoc. They need to add in quick play, the option to quick play. Of course, Party Finder still exists. If you want to go through Party Finder and make your parties, very cool. But you should be able to quick play into games that are currently going on. I cannot even count the number of times where I've had a player DC for crashing or whatever else, and they can never come back. I can't fill them with anyone else because Havoc is obsessed with ranking, and therefore, it would be cheating to sub them out with someone else, even though if I was friends with them, I could just leave the game and rejoin on a different character, and that's somehow allowed. So yeah, add quick play. Remove the ranking system entirely. Just make it so there's 4 difficulties: Havoc 10, Havoc 20, Havoc 30, and Havoc 40. Then scale those difficulties where each current difficulty goes down by 10. So the current Havoc 20 difficulty becomes Havoc 10, current 30 becomes 20, and now the Havoc 40, whatever, would be equivalent to a current day Havoc 50. So it goes up in difficulty. Because currently the bottom 10 Havoc ranks are literally pointless. There's no reason that those should exist at all. The fact that half of the potential Havoc ranks in the game with this silly ranking system is sub-damnation difficulty is wild to me, because you have completed, ostensibly you're playing Damnation or Auric before you're playing Havoc, I would hope. It's supposed to be harder. So yeah, let's just go ahead and signify to players that this is supposed to be harder than Malice, and not have there be 1/4 of all of our levels devoted to Malice difficulty, because that's fucking whack. Standardize your difficulties. Make it certain that a Havoc 50 will always have more stuff and be more competitive than a Havoc 40 or Havoc 30, etc. Right? You need to standardize it such that players who are playing on a certain difficulty can get a consistent experience, can consistently test their skills against relatively a similar power level of enemy every time. It's okay if there's variance, right? Variance and the variety is the spice of Darktide, but we need to make this consistent, because having massive spikes in difficulty at lower levels or even at higher levels, it confuses players and it makes them not understand where their own skills are, whether they died fairly or whether the game is just bullshit. Because a lot of times right now it's just bullshit. There also needs to be additional modifiers or additional penalties to players through the Emperor's Guiding or Emperor's Fading Light modifier. So right now, I think they've done a good job with this, right? It penalizes ammo, so you can't just range spam a billion things. It also penalizes your shields, so that you get less shields and less health, and you can get your shields broken and hit directly after the fact. Those sort of things are very, very good at making players take more damage, which is a hard thing to do in normal difficulties, but Havoc has a much easier job of doing it because of that. But the other couple of things that players are able to crush on in this difficulty should also be very much looked at and reduced. I'm talking a global nerf to all cooldowns, which I am shocked was not part of the fundamental system that was added in. You should start at a very low, like 25% penalty to cooldown, and it should scale up till, when you're at Havoc 40, it should be double base cooldowns. The number one power scaling thing in this game is ability spam. Classes that can spam their abilities non-stop every 15 seconds just power scale and completely ruin combats. Ogrins can taunt literally full time with taunt. You always have venting shriek is up so often you don't even have to care about your peril management. Bubbles are overlapping. It's all related to cooldowns, and this is Havoc. This is supposed to be difficult. It's okay if players want to play in what I would call arcade mode in Auric and just spam abilities and go MMO style to their heart's content. But this is Havoc. This is supposed to be a test of your personal player skill. Your personal player skill is not pressing your ultimate button, over and over again every 15 seconds and in relying on the immense power boost that provides. So a global nerf to cooldown, sorely needed, scaling based on the difficulty you're at. And then damage over time is also nerfed. Damage over time abilities, especially fire, especially soul blaze, bleed probably less so because it's kind of in like depended on for like Ogre and stuff. But yeah, those like toxin, all that stuff needs to get massively nerfed at high levels because dealing direct damage is more skill incumbent, right? Just putting dots on a million billion things should be biased against. I would also maybe say like reduce AoE, but that could probably have like unintended effects, but definitely reducing AoE or definitely reducing damage over time, because it's just free damage, and it's just the overwhelming way that so many broken classes do crazy amounts of damage. Bias the game more towards direct damage dealers who are getting out there and are doing big upfront hits. So you'll see more melee characters. You will see more characters who are using precision weapons and stuff like that versus these AoE sort of dot spammers. Then we are going to rotate every single week, but it's only going to rotate the mutators, and all maps are always available. So what it'll be instead is the Havoc will save your map. You can reattempt the map that you get for that week, all week if you want to, or you can simply you can simply hit reroll at any time, right? But if you're a Havoc player, you are trying to best the map that you were given, and like that's cool, right? You want to best that map. So that's the cool part that works about Havoc, is being able to reattempt the mission over and over and over and over and over and over and over till you beat it. That should be incentivized. So you can keep that mission all week long until such time as you beat it, or at any time you can press reroll and just try another one. But maybe you can only get so many rerolls per week. I don't know what it would be. But I also think there needs to be some incentive for players to say they're beating this, some overwhelming thing. Players really, I don't know if I've been, this is an obvious thing that I feel like Fat Shark should know at this point. Players really love True Level. There's so many players out there that want that to be added as a base feature of the game. Add it through Havoc. Have this be something that shows up if you inspect someone's profile or whatever. Maybe even they can choose optionally to show this stuff or not. Show their number of Havoc completions per rank, right? So you can show something. Give players the option of like a something they can show. Highlight when players inspect their character profile. They've got like a highlights thing, and you could say, oh hey, I have all the achievements, right? Put that at the top. My achievement points or my penances points up at the top. My top banner would say, I have all penances. Or it could say, I have completed 500 Havoc 40s, something like that. You could have that listed at the top. Or I have this win rate on Havoc 40. That sort of stuff would be very cool. It would allow players to show off, which is what inherently players want to do, and it would also allow players to signpost to other players that, hey, I'm capable. I want to be in a group. We should play together. That sort of thing. And it would give players who are pushing and playing these games over and over and over something to work for, which works because we've all seen players out there who have thousands of levels on one character, and they're just grinding all day because that's what they enjoy doing, is they want that level to be high, they want it to be impressive, and players like that. They like a meta progression, a big picture thing. Okay, and there you go. That's my total Havoc overhaul. That doesn't honestly sound that hard, right? And that would be outside of anything you would do with weapons and balancing there, but I would love if they would just be so much more experimental with this mode. It drives me crazy that it's either they are, as I said at the beginning, I think, they either just are completely confident that this is fine and their vision is perfect for this and they can't be arsed to change it, or they just genuinely don't care, that they just don't think about this mode at all. This is like the least loved endgame system I could possibly imagine, where this is a game where you've got like so many players who play this religiously, and most of them will end up in the system, but you won't give it any love. And like you've got this hugely dedicated player base that will find the flaws in it. When you look at World of Warcraft, because clearly we love World of Warcraft, we're copying all their designs. There are good expansions and there are bad expansions for World of Warcraft, but one thing that I knew was true throughout all my years of playing that game was that the raid content, the endgame content, the mythic dungeons, they were always peak, right? That was something that the teams made certain to fucking nail. Why? Because that is where your absolutely serious hardcore players who are going to play day in, day out, hours and hours, hundreds of, if not thousands of hours, that is where they're going to end up. You want to make certain that they have a good experience when they're doing raids. Every raid tier generally is pretty fucking peak, and also people really love mythic dungeons, and then they are constantly tweaking this stuff to get it better. This game mode feels oftentimes as abandoned as Mortis Trials and stuff. Yes, they still do make occasional updates to it, but not in any real tangible way like I would expect, and you can't do that. Because this is not Mortis Trials, this is not Expeditions, this is a game mode that people still play. It's been out for a year and a half, longer than that, almost a year and 3/4, and there's people still playing it, people still getting into it, people are interested in seeing what it has, and it's unfortunate when I have to explain to them that like, hey, yeah, it's just not as interesting as you would probably like it to be, and also it's like super unfair, and not unfair in like the fun way you're like, drats, let's try it again. It's unfair and they're like, what the fuck was that even? Like, how was I supposed to? I don't know. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with Havoc right now. I wish upon a star that we would see a big overhaul to this system to really encourage players to get into Endgame, because I think there's so much fun to be had here potentially. But right now, especially when it's week after week of modifiers where it's like orange and pink and orange and pink, and you're just like slugging through enemies forever, it feels just so painful. And there's so much potential here with cool modifiers like Demon Host Rituals. That is the one cool modifier, but it's always fucking broken, and it's endlessly frustrating that has to be broken on the backside of being potentially their coolest idea for a mutator. Okay, that is enough ranting. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this level of rant, and you're still here at the end, by the way, you would 100% enjoy being a channel member. I've got lots of videos in there where I go like an hour just talking to, I guess, you guys technically, playing through games, and you'll get a lot more of this sort of stuff if you member up. Plus, join the Discord and on the Minecraft server and all that stuff. Okay, that's enough shilling. Bye. Have fun. See ya.